You're watching Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Muscle Garage is proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Coming up, Grassroots Racing with Auckland Car Club's Summer Series and the Matamata Man doing his bit to LS the world. We shed raid David Green's Specialty Cars & Co. But first, the crew from Maguire's send us to check out the lineup of Hamilton's Chris Mangan. Ford or Chev, it's all the same when the rubber meets the road.
I drive my cars, and so I think cars are made to be driven. We get in, we enjoy it. There's no process you have to go through to make sure it's okay to take it out, or when you bring it home, wash and clean it, finish it. You know, it's just park it and get ready, and it's there for you to drive next time. I've been doing cars for many years. I'm actually an automotive mechanic by trade. In my early ages, had a mentor in Pat Paul, and he's probably known to many of the older riders around. Pat used to live behind us, Pat and Yvonne, and I used to babysit for them, Brendan, Paul. And when Pat and Yvonne were out, I always used to look over the fence at his cars, and then as I got older and could do the babysitting, I used to judge how long I'd be babysitting for by the size of the pile of hot rod magazines that Pat used to leave on the kitchen table for me. So there are some influences there leaning towards the hot rods.
While the hot rods would see the bug bite for Chris, like many car stories, life would get in the way for a bit. With a home, young family and growing business, there wasn't always a lot of time for his hobby. That, however, would all change with the purchase of a 56 Sport Coupe some 20 years back. The back burner phase was over.
The 56 was done, and I was starting to sort of lean towards the earlier style cars, so that's when the Roadster came about. It was that let's build a Roadster. It wasn't actually planned as such. I know a lot of my friends and a lot of rodders, they will go to great lengths to develop, plan a car. They'll get together the componentry, they'll have that finished article in mind, and they'll stick to that and do it, and good on them for doing that. I struggle myself sometimes. It's bad enough trying to plan a business, let alone my personal life. So that way our Roadster really was, it's evolved over time. Just as I learnt more about the era that I was looking to build to and got more into it, you know, we swapped things out and solids to wires and just the look and the finish. That car was supposed to be a finished painted car, nice interior and such like when it first started. We put on the road for what was intentionally 3 months as a bit of a shakedown and, you know, make sure everything's working, pull it apart and paint it. That was 6 years ago. I can't see it coming off the chassis.
The base for the Model A was one of Squeak Bell's last chassis before he shut up shop. The body? Mostly Henry Ford with a couple of new patches. Hamilton's rocket speed equipment were tasked with assembly, pushing the car towards the vintage-styled hot rod you see today. To that end, a blingy crate motor wasn't going to work here.
That was what I call a passion purchase. I saw it on trade and I thought, man, I've got to have one of those, so I hit the buy now button, and yeah, it's the old rocket motor, the 303 49. First overhead valve V8 motor ever produced. And yeah, again, different. That's what I was looking for something more traditional, what was available at the time. It's not dressed up to any degree. It's just we want to drive it and enjoy it. They are harder. You drive my Roadster for an hour, you know you've driven it for an hour. You know, I have a lumbar roll that I put behind my back now. Comes that rawness about them again, the basic engineering. I sleep better at nights when I've driven the cars, I know that.
And while the collection is a work in progress as space allows, a V-dub combo and a very cool Pontiac GTO, the more recent additions, Chris's enjoyment isn't just from the cars themselves.
When I first got back into it, the kids were quite small and they really didn't spin their wheels. It's probably the last 3-4 years that they've both taken a greater interest in it, which I'm very pleased about. We were driving somewhere and I heard the Beach Boys came on on this radio anyway, and they started singing it. And when my daughter did, and I said, "Well, you know the Beach Boys song," and she said, "Well, how can we? How could we not? We've had nearly 20 years of listening to it, you in your cars." So we had some great times with them, and that influence that I didn't realise was actually happening. But it's really special when the kids get involved, and especially I think in our hobby, because we don't see enough young ones coming through. You know, the cost is just so prohibitive. I don't know what the solution is there, and that's why I say you go to a swap meet and it's a sea of grey hair more often than not. So it is neat to see the young ones out there getting involved. It'd be great to see a lot more involved. But the family is special.
Right, thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, it's time to raid us some sheds. This week, we meet Matamata LS guru David Green and Specialty Cars & Co.
Late 60s, early 70s. We did the usual stuff that the young fellas did with tea buckets, and we had a great time back in the early 70s. There wasn't so many rules around then. Dyed in the wool GM man, and I appreciate all other makes at the same time. Just that GM seemed to do things better. I'm dyed in the wool GM. The company Specialty Cars & Co. was formed quite a few years ago, like 1981, and we've developed through the years doing a lot of different things, all automotive of course, and right till today we're mainly importing and selling parts and engines, and especially the LS engine. Throw LS into anything that moves. You know, for example, some of the fastest Fox body Mustangs in the States run LS motors.
While the LS might be the flavour of the month, year, probably decade, for David it's been a natural progression. A carb man like many to start, a mid-80s stateside buying trip would see a mate present a strong case for the tuned port-injected or TPI motor. Dave got to know these modern V8s well, and a large number of well-known New Zealand cars run Specialty Cars & Co. sourced engines as a result, including Dave's own, a recently completed 47 Chev Fleetmaster pickup running a Ram port-injected 350 cube ZZ4, jag-independent suspension, plus a whole lot of custom touches, the modern tray being the most obvious one. And that concept of jamming later model tech into old cars isn't something that's likely to stop anytime soon.
The progression is non-stop, and it's going faster than you think, because now the LS motor is quite an old motor. Hello New Zealand, it is an old motor now. They have the LT4, which is direct injection, and that motor builds super horsepower. All the later model Corvettes and Camaros have that motor in it now, so it's a progression thing, and it just keeps on happening.
GM already had themselves a winner in the small block V8, a motor first seen in 55 models and still available to this day in crate form. The LS series improves on the formula. Kicking into production in '96, variants can be found natively in trucks and cars like the Camaro, Corvette, Cadillac, and closer to home, the Commodore.
They started with the LS1, went to the LS2, which wasn't much better than the LS1, but still, Rezo horsepower, close to 400 horse. And now we've got the LS3, which has been out for a little while, and it can produce in stock form is normally 430 horse. We've just landed a motor yesterday, it's 525 horse, and that's just a basic engine, comes with a throttle body and injectors, and it works. It'll sit there and idle like a baby, and it'll tear your skin back when you put your foot into it. But the supercharged motors was like the LSA, which they first put on the Cadillacs, and not many people probably know that. Before they put it in the Camaros, they put it in the Cadillacs, and that was a true, very close to 600 horsepower motor, and that's, you know, with a 100,000 mile warranty.
And while the modern appearance might mean the motor isn't for every occasion, increasingly there are cosmetic workarounds for that. The other hesitation for the old schooler? The auto-electrical degree you might need to wire one in. Well, turns out that's not so much of a thing either.
Well, wiring's the easiest part of the whole damn lot. I modify the looms here and make them between a 3 or a 7 wire hookup, depending whether they're automatic or manual, and it becomes a very basic, simple job to hook them up.
And hook them up he has over many years now. And so many, in fact, that chances are that injected motor you saw shoehorned into that beach hop cruiser, well, there's a pretty good chance it came to New Zealand on a container addressed to Dave.
great to go out in the weekend and look around at the rod run or something and say, oh yeah, that motor's there and that motor there and that motor and transmission there or that fuel injection there. It is a pretty neat feeling, and it's good to see people out there enjoying their cars. I've got a few projects in mind. I've got an engine sitting behind me here, which is a very, very rare engine. It's a V10 LS, 7.4 litre, 500 horsepower stock. That's one of two. So one of two iron blocks one. It's an iron block one. I knew they built about 20 alloy block ones, but I didn't realise they'd only built two iron block ones. So that would work pretty nice with a big old turbo on it, wouldn't it?
Amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage, proudly brought to you by Teng Tools, in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. New Zealand is blessed with a huge number of auto events over summer, but none quite compare to Rangiora's Muscle Car Madness. The massive 4-day event combines cars, lots of cars, 1,500 of them in fact, camping, cruises, and even the chance to turn tyres and anger on the burnout pad. Almost 3 decades down, Muscle Car Madness shows little sign of slowing. It sports an atmosphere unlike any other and is well worth making the effort to get to number 29 in January 2019. Right, thanks to Niedercar, we're headed for Pukekohe Park Raceway for Grassroots circuit racing with Auckland Car Club's Summer Series.
All Auckland does is motorsport. We're a motorsport club in particular, probably one of the largest car clubs as far as motorsport goes, private clubs. We're at over 600 members, which I think makes us the largest car club, racing car club in this country. And so we have 6 meetings that we do in Auckland each year. We call them our Summer Series, and we've just started going back to Taupo, so we now have a meeting down in Taupo.
Racing on this day offered a bit of something for everyone, with 2 muscle car classes, as well as racing saloons, production and classic Japanese classes. Formula Fords and the Rotaries were covered too. Auckland Car Club's 20-strong track crew are all volunteers, and spectator entry is free. Yep, Grassroots racing is the name of the game, and it's all about making it possible to get out and race, no matter what the budget.
Very much, yeah, but as you can see, we do get some big names that come and play. Particularly here today, we're running Circuit 2, which is the big straight at Pukekohe, and we have some of the Central Muscle Car boys have come along to try and break the 60-second barrier, so they're very keen to do that. A lot of the cars are Grassroots, a lot of them only do Auckland Car Club.
This is Grassroots, this is where it all starts.
Yeah, it is. I think there's about 100 competitors here today in 6 classes. We're running single sprints as well, where all you need is basically an M-class licence and a fire extinguisher and a warrant of fitness, and you can come along to these events and then gradually sort of get into the full-on racing.
And while as far as track days go, this one might be a little more relaxed in theory, these folks weren't exactly out for a leisurely Sunday drive. The classes are well supported and times were pretty fast too.
Oh yeah, there's no two ways about that. You know, that's every time you turn up at the racetrack and you put the helmet on, a little bit of red mist comes on, so you do definitely, we're out there to compete, and I think it's 10 times better than watching it from the sideline just having a go. I mean, there's always got to be somebody who finishes midfield, and unfortunately there's got to be somebody who finishes last, and every now and again that's me, but once a year I might pull a win out, so that's what makes it worthwhile.
Circuit racing is so much better than drag racing. Straight line for 10, 15 seconds, it's all over. And it only has to go in a straight line. Circuit cars have got to go round corners, they've got to stop, so that's the challenge.
Running in the Northern Muscle Car Invitational class was Mike behind the wheel of his 89 Commodore. Invitational as he misses the class's 84 cutoff.
The car's a 1989 SV89 Commodore. It's running a stroke 350 Commodore engine. I bought the car in 2000 to do the Targa. I was just stayed with the family and had more money spent on it. Bit of a Holden fan, had a few Holdens, got a few Holdens, so sort of stuck with that. And if you smash it, you can go down to pick apart and pick up a guard pretty cheap. A lot of suspension modifications and brakes and bits and pieces. And maintenance is a big issue, which can be my downfall. I did a bit of drag racing in the early days and then had the opportunity to run in the Targa. So since then, sort of found racetracks with corners. My son's racing here as well, and my daughter's out the first time today as well. So the wife's not overly thrilled, but it is addictive.
I grew up in Pukekohe, and when I was a young fella, my father used to bring me down here and we used to help clean up the racetrack when I was about 4 or 5 years old. So I think I was bitten way back then. And I used to come here and watch the Benson and Hedges 6 Hour and the Peter Stuyvesant series, and I always wanted to be, have a turn out on the Pukekohe Park Raceway. So I got to 34 and got my own business and decided I would buy my own race car and have a turn. So that's where it all started. So, I tried to have a race, raced in a proper racing series, but discovered I'm not Peter Brox, so I just like mucking around with the car club stuff now. It's good, It's a VB Holden Commodore, so 1979 Commodore. We've got a 355 engine in it and a Tex Racing 4-speed. Well, these older cars, they tend to break with a bit of monotonous regularity. So preparation is the key with them, and basically every time we've been out for a meeting like this, we'll spend 5 or 6 hours going fully over the car and spanner checking pretty much everything in the running gear and making sure that everything stays tight, and oil changes every second meeting, filters every second meeting, and this thing takes 14 litres of oil, so it's a fair old expense just keeping the old girls going. But it's where the passion is. I'm not a young turbo type of guy, but my son definitely is. So that'll probably be my next step, I would imagine, is trying to create something for him to show off with.
Daring to be different amongst the muscle cars, the AMC of Craig Stacey.
It's an AMC Javelin, built by American Motors Corporation. This is a 1971 model. Mark Donohue and Roger Penske took on the AMC logo and car in 71 for Trans Am, and they had a bit to do with the shape of the car, the big guards and all that sort of thing. In the day they were called like a Kelvinator, and that being because Kelvinator actually pressed a lot of the panels for these. She's a 401 cubic inch, got a 9-inch diff in it and a G-force gearbox. Obviously they aren't original, but they were obviously a 4-speed or a torque-flight automatic. I wanted to race it because it's something different. No one else sort of had one of those here. Yeah, I just like to think outside the box, you know. In the day, everyone razooed these things, but it proven that they can be turned into a pretty good race car, you know. So yeah, no, we're pretty rapt to be able to run it and yeah, fly the flag for old AMC.
But outside the box has its challenges on any car. It's worse when throwing the thing around a racetrack.
Well, seeing I've changed the diff to a 9-inch Ford, that's pretty easy. The gearbox is pretty easy. Front suspension is pretty similar to a Falcon Mustang, a little bit different, but the parts are available. I've got a few spares accumulated now and a few spare engines and blocks, but otherwise heads and things are quite oddball. They've just got original cast iron heads on it and they're maxed out. I can't do nothing more with them, so I just got to run what I got. There ain't no modern car like you buy nowadays on the street. You got to wrestle these things, and you know, I love chucking the horsepower down and lighting the tyres up, and yeah, having a good time. It's all about fun for me.
And about 600 others, it would seem, looking at Auckland Car Club's ranks. If this all looks like a bit of you, check them out on the World Wide Web. Every week, we're giving our viewers the chance to win a Teng Tools and Maguire's gift pack worth $250. Simply go to themotorhood.com and follow the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. Plus, by entering our weekly draws, at the end of the series, one lucky viewer will win a Teng Tools 460-piece automotive toolkit, a complete Maguire's car care pack, and a $500 Mount Shop voucher. The total value of this grand prize is almost $5,000. Good luck, everyone. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.